Hello, I'm Anaya, and I'm here to persuade you not to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to domestic violence. This could be your mother, your friend, your coworker, your sister, or even your daughter. These two pictures were taken off Oprah Winfrey website. A woman named Susan Still. She was abused for 11 years by her husband. That is a video that was taped by her 13-year-old son forcibly by her husband, and there was little clips of it, and it lasted over 51 minutes. Susan Still is now an advocate for domestic violence while her husband is serving time in jail. He is due to be released in 2021. This picture is of me with a black eye and a hematoma. That is one of many injuries that I have received. I've had broken toes, broken ankle, broken wrist, broken jaw, and broken nose due to domestic violence. My father never laid a hand on my mother. She was volatile because she was raised by her father, who beat my grandmother on a regular basis. My father chose to leave when I was age 7 years old and asked me did I want to come too. That was a big question for a 7-year-old. I decided to stay to protect my 2-year-old brother. Years later, both my parents remarried, and me living with my mother and looking like my father sent a whole line of abuse coming my way. I was always belittled and abused by her physically, no matter what I did and how well I did in school and how well I kept up her apartment. When my stepfather came into the picture, things got worse. The two of them were volatile, and they would fight amongst each other on a regular basis. Soon, they would both fight, my son, my brother, and I. So life was not easy there. When I became 15 years old, I was able to date the drug dealer in the neighborhood. He was 10 years my senior. My mother allowed it, nothing was being said. I was soon abused by him also. And I was never safe at home or outside the house. So I dove into my schoolwork and graduated with honors after I was age of 16 and living on my own to 16. That picture of me was some of the work that he'd done to my face. The mental taste that you feel, and the stinging in your mouth, and the metal feeling, and those ringing you feel when you're being punched in the face is so real. I should prepare myself in my second abusive relationship when he had a bad day at home, put my hair in a ponytail so he would stop pulling my hair out. If he had a bad day at work, I knew it was coming, so I thought I was preparing myself for what was coming next. During the first marriage, sexual abuse was normal, and it was said, I love you, and it's okay. Spitting in your face and degrading you in that way, I became stronger and decided to get the help I needed and to get out of that relationship. I'm a survivor. I suffered in every relationship I have been by being abused, whether physically, financially, or mentally. I am now enjoying being 49 years old and single for the past 2 years. Facts, almost 5 million women are abused every year in the United States by their intimate partner. 3 women are murdered every day by intimate partnership every year. 2 million injured, 1,300 deaths because of domestic violence. 1 million people reported being raped in the United States a year, and 6 million men and women have reported being stalked in the United States. October is Domestic Violence Month, Awareness Month, and I found that ironic because so is breast cancer awareness. I read an article in the ESC library, and it was on point. Domestic abuse, what you need to know. This article is based on healthcare professionals, things that they should look out for and they should know. It went on to discuss how many healthcare professionals, usually fail to recognize the symptoms or the cases. And I agree with that author, Carmel Bigness, because in my case, my ex-husband used to be there to make sure I said the right thing while I'm in the ER. And if he wasn't, if I said I fell downstairs, the doctor would say those are mean stairs, bad stairs. So those are the comments, and that's how you felt you could never really get the help, even if you're, because they're waiting for you to tell the truth. The story of Kitty Genovese was about a young woman who was killed in New York on March 13, 1964, in Kew Gardens. She was stabbed to death right outside her building. When the neighbors were interviewed, they all said they thought it was her partner or her boyfriend. It was a boyfriend-girlfriend fight. That shook a lot of the community because people were willing to ignore if a spouse is beating a woman in the street. It ended up to be a stranger who stabbed Kitty to death, and to this day, people still may react in that same manner. Another case was sad. It was Elizabeth Lisa, known as Steinberg. She was adopted by Joel Steinberg. He was a famous lawyer back in the time in New York City. And he was known to have drifted off to cocaine use, crack cocaine. And his living girlfriend was also being abused, and Lisa, on a regular basis. Once again, the neighbors turned a blind ear because they thought a father was disciplining his child. But in the end, he killed her. And Lisa has there's memorials all over New York City of her, especially in the downtown area where she was killed. And New York troopers somehow leaked her pictures to the New York Times. And everyone felt at that time we must do something to change this. Please let us not forget about the animals and the elderly who are abused by people who are supposed to be caring for them, because that's also a form of abuse. Abusers like to have control. I will never forget the pain in my ankle or a scar on the bottom of my lip when I was told, "I'm sorry, come here, let me kiss you," and my lip was being pulled to a hole was through the lip. The teeth went through the lip. But most of all, the mental pain will last forever. Whenever I see a TV show, whenever I hear a movie, whenever I even watch the news, I become impacted by anything I watch from now on. Victims are usually embarrassed to speak out, or they're financially dependent on this person, or they're thinking that this is the best thing for my children to have a two-family home. Or they don't want to hear the, "Well, I told you so," from many friends and family. Domestic violence impacts are long terms. Women have either mental health issues, physical health issues, having a hard time to be protected for their earnings. And the whole thing is wrapped up with they have a very hard time financially being secure. And the damage that might be left on their children, mental well-being, can be long-term. If I could do anything or say anything to you after this speech, hearing it or listening or reading, I would like you to know to stop and do not ever turn a blind eye to domestic violence. Because you can be wrong, but I think that's better than being right and not doing anything, and tomorrow that person's life was ended because you may have stepped back to not say anything. So that's it, and it's very hard for me, but I am here to tell you, please, let's not turn a blind eye and deaf ear to domestic violence. Thank you.